Okay. All right, thanks. Yes. I think he's ready. Oh. Oh, okay.
As I was saying, this is our last book club meeting of the year, and I hope that some of you may come and join us in September. We'd love to have you. But thank you very much for coming tonight for this special presentation. We usually start our meetings off with a prayer, so I will say that now, and then I will turn it over to Isaac. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to gather this evening to listen as Ken and Isaac discusses the process of completing this project, his reasons for writing the book, and the thoughts and questions that were explored in it. We ask for your wisdom and understanding, and help us the means understanding.
I tapped it and it's on.
It's on, yes.
Yes.
I have this pair of glasses. So yeah. How many of you had the chance to see the title of an online article this morning that says, "Good News for Humanity. We have extra time before the sun devours us." Oh, okay. Can you hear? Can you hear me? Anybody had a chance to see that title? That title? No. No. The title is "Good News for Humanity. We have extra time before the sun ends life on earth." That's the... Well, keep that in mind. We may come back to it eventually. But I'd like to greet you in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ and thank you for taking the time to come in, especially those of you who are not members of the book club. I'd like to a special welcome to the guests here that Ted and Myra have come or brought with you. What can you tell us what your name is, perhaps? Okay. Well, thank you for coming. Thank you. And thanks to Carol and the book club for the opportunity for me to share something about cosmic disposition. I'm going to do a formal presentation for about 10 minutes, and then we shall open it up for an informal conversation. It won't be very serious or very formal or official, but everyone is welcome to either ask a question, comment, whatever comes to your mind. We shall have a good conversation until Carol tells us we've had enough, and then we shall wrap up with perhaps the grace. Allow me to begin with an observation that I think needs to be made at the outset, and that is the tension between my vocation as a priest and my role as a writer and thinker and someone who critiques society. As a priest, I function as a professional within a particular tradition and observe the rules and language game of that tradition. As a writer, I function as a free agent, interrogating and questioning the norms and values and rules of that very same tradition which I inhabit as a priest. Same person occupying seemingly two contradictory roles. Now, tonight, I stand before you not as Canon Isaac, rector of St. James the Apostle, but rather as Kawuki Mukasa, the author of Cosmic Disposition, and attempting to shed light on what this book is about. I'd like to open the conversation by presenting the problem at the center of the book, namely our obsession with the endings, or the looming endings that we know are coming. When you pause to think about our lives, you will find that most of what we do arises from our anxiety over endings. Or perhaps to put it more clearly, our actions are often motivated by the need to delay or to put off endings that we know are coming. A woman or man provide for their families so that the families may survive and flourish for as long as possible. They know that at some point the family will end, but nevertheless they provide for that family so that they can delay or put off the end for as long as possible. A community adopts certain courses of action to sustain itself and prevent the inevitable collapsing that is bound to happen sooner or later. All communities eventually die, but we adopt certain actions and certain norms in order to prevent, to put off the ending as long as possible. Societies go to war to prevent their annihilation, at least for this time. All societies eventually collapse, they eventually dissolve, but they go to war in order to sustain themselves and not be annihilated. And we as a species adapt to our environment in order to prevent our extinction for as long as possible. We know in the end we shall be gone. We shall become extinct. But we try to adapt to our environment in order to sustain ourselves for as long as possible. And this reminds me of that article that I've told you. We know that eventually the sun will devour life here on Earth, and so we shall become extinct. But nevertheless, we adapt because we want to stay for as long as possible. Life always strives to delay or to put off its inevitable annihilation. And this drive is a fundamental part of our psyche, and it is rooted in our survival instincts, our primitive survival instincts. I have coined the term anthropoterminal to describe this deep-seated impulse, this deep-seated drive to put off endings for as long as possible. The word combines anthro, Greek word anthro, which means human, and terminal, Latin word, which means end. And it is the word from which we get words like bus terminal or airport terminal. So allow me to give a working definition of the concepts that I've been working with in this regard, and we'll provide and try and see how they are reflected in cosmic disposition. I will focus on two concepts. There are many variations. I've developed a variety of conceptual tools that analyze this phenomenon, but I will confine myself to two tonight, and that is the anthropotermic and anthropoterminal impulses. Don't worry about the terminology. Eventually, it will become easier. The anthropotermic impulse may be defined as the survival instinct gradually scaled up to something bigger. The survival instinct, which is a primitive instinct, scaled up into social institutions like families, economic and political systems, hospitals, etc., etc. It is the drive or impulse that refuses to accept termination at the individual level, scaled up to societal level. The drive to delay and put off our biological survival. The anthropotermic impulse gradually turns into the anthropoterminal drive, and this is the drive or impulse that affirms our centrality in the universe, the drive that claims that we are the central character in the cosmic story, if you will. It is the projection of individual survival anxiety to the level of the species and collective fate of the world as a whole. It is the assumption that our end will be the end of cosmic meaning itself. And again, going back to that story this morning, which talks about we humans having extra time before the sun devours us. So let us see how these two concepts are reflected in the book. And we just scan the top. We're not going to go in depth. Perhaps in our discussion we can look at some more details. In chapter 1, I attempt to, through narrative, to demonstrate the evolution of the anthropotermic impulse from the basic survival instincts of our ancestors from the very earliest period, using archaeological evidence, linguistic reconstructions, and mythology to try and weave a continuous story of our journey, showing how the impulse to delay, the impulse to put off our physical existence has evolved, first into simple social structures, and then into systems, and eventually into civilizations and institutions that have sustained us all the way to the present. My central claim here is that the anthropotermic impulse is the bedrock upon which all subsequent claims of our significance and importance in the universe rest. It is the indispensable first force or first move showing the value of survival to be the precondition for all other forms of value. The anthropotamic impulse is shown throughout my book to be the motivation behind all the great strides that we have achieved as a species. Now, whereas this impulse, the anthropotamic impulse, strives to delay our individual demise, the anthropotaminal impulse claims our extension as a species to be the end of meaning itself. That when we humans end, then meaning in the cosmos will end. And this presumption is reflected throughout the book in different ways. Paul's theological position, for example, is presented as the culmination of anthropotaminal consciousness. Paul claims that in Jesus, human beings have direct access to God, the Creator. Now think of that for a moment. We, a species here on a tiny little planet in the middle of nowhere, having access, direct access to God, who is the Creator of the entire universe. This radical claim is preceded by a gradual elevation of humanity in the economy of the cosmic order that I discussed in the first part of the book, from the imagination of the agricultural revolution through the Mesopotamian and Egyptian civilizations to Abraham's monotheism, and all the way through to Paul's claim to have direct access to God. This was the elevation of humanity to the center of being itself, suggesting that the universe requires our existence to be meaningful. In other words, our extinction will also be the end of meaning itself. The Copernican story takes a significant amount of space in the book because it demonstrates how the anthropotaminal impulse recalibrates even after our displacement from the center of the universe. On page 175, you don't have to look it up, I argue that in reclaiming Earth from the center of the universe, Copernicus elevated humanity to a different kind of centrality, namely as the cosmic observer, as the species that observes the universe, and through whom the universe then gets to recognize itself. The book itself has a whole, if you will, reflexive dimension or layer of anthropotaminality. The sweeping narrative of our evolution from nature all the way to a digital civilization implicitly claims that our story is the story that matters in the universe, and that without us, the universe is without meaning. This is why there is such great anxiety today over the emergence of artificial intelligence, because of the potential that we might become irrelevant, we might become extinct, as some people are beginning to talk about. We are on the cusp of a looming end in the history of our species, and people are beginning to talk about that as well. And my book attempts to trace the arc of our story from the very beginning to the present, showing how the anthropotamic and anthropotaminal impulses, these drives within us to delay the looming end, have built us into who we have become today. But we must now ask the perennial question again, and that is, who are we? Who are we, really? And what is our role in the universe? Thank you very much. Now I will open it up for any conversation. You don't need to have read the book. You're welcome to share anything that you'd like to say. Yes? Yeah. Sorry?
I was just going to ask you if you could maybe read out the sections that your book is divided into. I found that really interesting, just how it all unraveled. Not that I read it, I skimmed it, but I could see where it was going with the different sections.
That's right. There are many, so
Yes.
I can't remember them off the top of my head.
Just from your...
But I think how the book progresses, because it is an attempt to tell the story of humanity from the very beginning, when we were part of nature, all the way through the development of systems and social structures and civilizations, and now where we are talking about a digital culture and systems that are and machines that are almost trying to take over. So it is a story. And through that story, I particularly focus on the European civilization as it is at this point, not because it is special, but because at the moment it is, over the last 500 years, it is what has been the central cultural influence in the universe. So that's why, and of course, having been trained in Western schools, that is the culture and civilization I know best. But there've been others. The Chinese have had a long history. The Indian civilization, the Arab civilizations, and others, all of which is about trying to see how we can delay or put off our extinction. The irony is that we seem now to be coming very close to what we feared the most. And that is why there is so much anxiety today over what will happen if machines take our place. Yes?
One of the things that I noticed, I was a little bit perplexed, I guess, because it's sort of your story and the timeline. If you put that against the stories in the Bible and the creation story in particular, it's definitely a different timeline. Quite a different timeline, and I forget, was it 300,000 years you talked about at one point?
Well, yes, the archaeology, it seems to be telling us that we have been around, we as Homo sapiens, for about 200,000.
200,000,
yes,
okay.
but it's difficult, maybe between 300 and 200,000.
Okay. So it kind of puts into question, like it's kind of a contrast from what we know to question, because we know, I mean, because of Darwin and different theories, we know to question the biblical timeline, but it was sort of shocking to see how long the humanity has been evolving in one form or other.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the biblical timeline takes us back about 6,000 years, which conflicts with the evolutionary theory, which talks about we having emerged from ancestors that were like us, and then but because of the changes that have happened along the way, we emerged and have been around for about 200,000. But humanity as it is right now has been around for about 60,000 years.
In the current format?
Yeah, configuration. When we have language and poetry and music and you know, that kind of creativity, which led into the agricultural revolution and civilizations like Mesopotamia, that has been around 60,000 years. We may be moving into something else beyond this point. But I'm glad that you said it is kind of shocking. It shouldn't be, because it doesn't, in my mind, it doesn't or delegitimize our faith, because our faith is also about trying to understand who we are as a species. I mean, you know, those biblical stories where people trying to figure out where did we come from, why are we even here? And those questions continue, and as I said at the end, questions that we are continuing to ask even now. Yeah. Any other thoughts? Yes. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you.
Thinking about?
Well, it took time writing too. Yes.
Yes, thank you. But I'm going right to the very end, where in speaking about the artificial intelligence reaching the point where we are not, but it is, or maybe we still are, but it is. And what kind of ancestors will we be to this new, I won't call it humanoid, I guess. Yes. And it sort of makes you stop and think. And I had an experience on the phone with an AI assistant, which I found very irritating. And I was having a hard time. I think I was on the verge of being not terribly polite, and I thought, oh, I can't do that. What kind of ancestor would I be? I have to teach it to be polite. Whether it learned anything or not, but I'm still not sure I like AI assistants. But
Yes.
What kind of ancestors? What are we teaching? What are we, in terms of the values that we teach our families, or hope we do?
And it is important that we recognize that we shall become ancestors eventually. In the same way, if we to believe the theory of evolution, we have a common ancestor, for example, with the Neanderthals. So those humans, those ancestors, were also at a certain point anxious about what was going on in their lives, but the transition took a long time for the branches, the Neanderthal and then the Homo sapiens, to move the way they did, and both of those lived with each other for over 30,000 years. That's a long time, coexisting until the Neanderthal became extinct. It's going to take, the transition always takes time. It's not going to happen tomorrow or in 100 years or even 500, because there might be a period when you have hybrid beings that are half human, half machine. Those can be around and coexist with human beings for maybe 1,000 years, maybe 5,000 years, 10,000 years. But eventually you may find that our stock runs out and becomes extinct. And then they will be talking about us as ancestors. And so that's what I was trying to get at, that it's not something that is going to happen quickly, but there's going to be a time when whoever comes after us will be wondering, what were these beings about, and what legacy did they leave us, and so on and so forth. Religion or spirituality might be one, something that they may pick up and run with for a long time.
A lot to think about.
Yes. But it's not going to be the transition is not likely to take a very, it's likely to take a long time. Yeah. Although right now with artificial intelligence, it feels like, you know, the world is changing so fast that this could be within another 10, 20 years. A lot will change, but we are still around for a while, and you know, the process will be where we might coexist with machines that are human and maybe, you know, that sort of thing. Yes, exactly. Yes, yes. We need to be good ancestors.
I have a question. How does something like the Ice Age fit into your theory? Because it seems to be, it came,
right,
and it's quickly changing. In today's world, I mean, maybe it's going to take 100 years, but as you suggest, but it's something like that, something that you have to consider when you're looking at the future.
They seem to say that every 100,000 years, something like the Ice Age happens. The last one was, I think, about 10,000 years ago, or somewhere around that, before the agricultural revolution. But then the one before that was about 100,000 years ago. But every time that transition happens, something dramatic takes place. When the Ice Age in 100,000 years ago petered out, human beings came alive. And that's when language became something that we use, Homo sapiens. That's when you begin to see carvings in caves, which means people were imaginative and creative. I'm sure during that time, songs and stories happened. And then this most recent Ice Age, as it ended, the agricultural revolution happened. And that, as you know, has brought about all kinds of progress in terms of civilization, like the Mesopotamian civilization, out of which our biblical tradition comes, and a whole host of other civilizations. I'm not so sure whether there's another Ice Age coming soon, because it seems to be a little bit early. It's only 10,000 years ago. But if it does, maybe it will be part of this transition that we seem to be beginning to deal with at this point. Yes? Right. Right. Right.
I mean, I didn't know half of that, and I thought I understood history. It was phenomenal how you put, it shows how many, in the past, they were jealous of each other, the scientists, and I found that amazing. How did you get that information, and how long did it take you to put it together?
Well, it took a long time, and I started, the concept emerged around 2015, and there were starts and stops and trying to get started and finding that I wasn't quite sure where I was going. But beginning 2018, the current project was launched, and then it moved. There were periods of time when I abandoned it and then came back to it. It required, of course, a lot of library work and reading and that sort of thing. It is also, I have to say, you know, and I was telling the book club the other time, I was on a Zoom call with other authors because we all spend a lot of time researching and reading, and then the writing process itself is a long one. Where we are going, you could write a 400-page book in a week with artificial intelligence. So so many people are wondering, and I'm wondering that myself, am I ever going to write another book? I am writing another book right now, but my worry and concern is that by the time you finish writing the book, it will be completely irrelevant because things will have gone beyond what we humans can manage. So, yeah.
Started in 2015.
Yes.
And artificial intelligence
Yes.
over the last few years.
That's
You were going in a different direction than what you anticipated.
yes, of course. As you write, the project takes on a life of its own. But the original, as I said at the beginning, my question, the very original question, was this question about why are we so obsessed with endings? Nobody wants to end. I mean, we as life always fights to survive. The universe always tries to kill life, but life is always striving to survive. And I played with that for a long time, and it is where I began to think about, well, maybe I should reflect on our story, and how it came about and where we have gone and how we have come to this point. But of course, along the way, as you get more information, things begin to change. And towards the end, I was hoping to include a spiritual dimension, or a dimension about faith. I had to give that up because I could see that it could take another 2-3 years, by which time artificial intelligence would have taken over, and the book would be kind of over. Sorry? It would be too late. Yeah, it would be too late to put the book out. So yeah, it changes, but one has, as I said, I'm working on a book right now, but at the same time not quite sure how it will be received, or whether it will make it in the end.
Did you have any particular audience in mind as you were writing this book? Is it meant for any particular group of people?
That's a good question, because that's some of the criticism that I have received. I thought I was writing for a general audience, but I've been finding, and many people have been telling me, that the book is not easy to get into. So yeah, that's kind of a dilemma that you find. I thought I was writing for the general audience. And I'm not writing for academics. No references or footnotes or that kind of thing. But still, I find that some people are saying that it doesn't seem to be. It's a niche for people maybe who are interested in history and evolution and science and that sort of thing. Yeah. It's not entertainment. It's not entertaining. It's not very entertaining. I think that's. Yeah. Yes. Right.
It's kind of anxious about life. And I find it something like it's talking how we are anxious how life is going to end, and especially us. And the fact that you talked about being replaced by machines, I would say no, we can't, because if you talk of evolution from those homo people you talked about, up to date, so that we have come through evolution. But we are evolving from humanity, not from machines. So much as machines are going to come, we are the people to operate the machines. Unfortunately, the machines don't reproduce. We make them produce.
And from the Bible aspect, like when God created man, he said man will procreate. So I think we shall continue to exist despite the challenges and trying to find ways, like you have said, of how to keep ourselves, to keep life with us, because always life strives to go away from us as we strive to get it back. And maybe that's precisely why there is a lot of inventions, those machines, those everything, so that we can keep life with ourselves. But like the Bible says, there is still the judgment day. So for me, I take it back to spirituality. God, we are given knowledge to procreate. That's why you have machines. And much as we evolved, we never evolved from machines. We evolved still from humanity. And if you compare the populations before and the populations now, you who are scared of dying, you see the populations are just going up. So I think it's a matter of using that knowledge and also getting a reflection from the Bible, from those great philosophers who first saw what is going to happen. Only that what is happening is now, right now, it's helping us to strive and keep life better compared to how it was before. Because I would compare that time if a woman had a problem with giving birth. Right now they cut out the child, but you can imagine before, I don't think there would be any life.
I think what you are articulating is what I've called here the anthropoterminal anxiety. Thinking that we are the end. There's no more anything coming after us. If we go, the universe will become meaningless. And we are not so much talking about machine as intelligence. I think what we are beginning to understand now is that intelligence is not something we understood. We thought it is part of the human, that it's part of us. But what we are learning now is that intelligence is something entirely different and not easy to define. So what you are articulating is what we have been striving to do, and that is to put off the end or delay the end of our species. And that is what religion is about. That is what even science and philosophy and politics and economics trying to have the humans still hold the reins, because we are afraid that there could be something more or beyond us.
Excuse me, if you talk of intelligence, are we not the one building the intelligence? Like, is it some being?
No, it is just that we don't know what intelligence is, and we are beginning to understand that we don't understand it. Because we thought it is part of us, and we thought people like Einstein and Isaac Newton, they were very intelligent, but they were humans. But now we are having systems which are showing us that intelligence is something entirely different from what we thought, and it seems to be taking over. And that's why we are afraid.
That's exactly where I'm confused, because if it is a system, if it is a system, it's a computer, like we are doing Facebook, the service online. It's us telling the system, setting that now the service is going to begin. Yes, I mean, the system has no control. It feeds what we feed it.
Yeah, we used to think that artificial intelligence is a tool. We thought it was a tool that we use. But now we are beginning to understand that it's not. And the concern I'm trying to tell you is that artificial intelligence is going beyond us. Just a few years ago, nobody thought that you could type into ChatGPT, can you write a paragraph for me about love and human faith and so on, that it would come back with an excellent rendition of what those things you have asked in a way that even human beings may not be able to articulate. So that part, but the people who built it are telling you that they don't know how it articulates this. They don't understand how this happened. They are mathematicians and they know what they feed into it. What comes out is something that nobody understands. And that's why so many of the people who are into artificial intelligence in developing it are sounding the alarm that we are heading into a very difficult time because, and they call them machines, but actually they're talking about intelligence, are taking over. And so they're talking about making sure that we align artificial intelligence with the values of humanity, which is exactly what I'm talking about too, that we want to keep the humans in control. It may not be possible. It may not be possible. Yes?
There's also the environmental threats that are possibly going to end our society at some time. Do you see that will be like a combination of forces that occur that result in the end of our civilization?
I think what people are saying, ironically, is that artificial intelligence may be what we call upon to help us with environmental issues, to help us with the problem of the earth becoming more and more unwelcoming to life, that because the intelligence that is coming is far superior to human intelligence, the way our brains process intelligence, that we are going to have no choice but to appeal to artificial intelligence to help us get us through those challenges. How long that will take, no one is sure at this point. Yes. Are you, yes? Were you going to ask something?
Yeah. Can I borrow that? Did anyone say the pictures that came back from the mission to the moon and the back of the moon? And I think you realize what a small speck the Earth is to our galaxy, and then outside of our galaxy, you can't comprehend where we are. And you wonder, as each door is opened and knowledge is broadened, there's 100 doors beyond that that hasn't been opened yet. So we as a human species can't comprehend the universe.
Right.
And that trip, and I read a few chapters of your book, it kind of magnifies what you're trying to get at, is the evolution of information and our species. And, it was wonderful how you put it, at the beginning, 10,000 or 300,000 years ago, coming up to today, and, the journey that we've been on. It's an incredible journey. I just wonder whether in the infinity of the cosmos, whether we're the only intelligent beings that exist. We'll probably not know in our lifetime, but maybe we will.
Yes, two things I want to comment. There is, I don't know whether you know Voyager 1 and 2, which are spacecrafts which were sent out, I think, in the 70s. Yes, you can't hear? Well, Voyager 1 and 2 were sent out, and one of those, I don't know, I think it was Voyager 1 or maybe Voyager 2, I don't quite remember. I think both of them have crossed our solar system. And as it was crossing, they manipulated it so that it turns and took a photograph, yes, of Earth. And Earth was a tiny dot, almost like what we see in the sky. And that is quite humbling. You kind of realize, and it is still very close. It will take it maybe millions of years to get to the center of our galaxy alone. It sort of humbles you, and you realize that how small you are. But also in the book, I talk about a physicist called Enrico Fermi, who at one lunch time with friends asked the question, where is everybody? But he wasn't talking about friends in a cafe, but he was talking about where are the aliens? Because when you think of how long the universe has been around, and you remember that Earth has only been here 4 billion years, our solar system, and the universe has been around maybe, let's say 14 billion years. That's a long stretch of time before life here on Earth started. So, and all the ingredients or elements that you need to have life have existed, like, stars exploding and forming new stars. So one might think that they calculated, and Enrico did a simple calculation and said that by this time, there should be civilizations everywhere in the universe. And so he was asking, where are they? Why don't we see them? But part of the reason could be that the distances are so big that there's no way that we will ever be able to connect with any other civilizations out there or other forms of life out there. Or it could be that we are unique and we are the only planet which created thinking beings like us, and that there is microbial life everywhere in the universe, but nowhere has this transition happened where you have thinking beings like us.
You think that human beings thinking is small.
Extremely.
You cannot imagine anybody like us 100 million miles away.
That is entirely true. We are just beginning to understand how limited we are in terms of intelligence. And if there are super intelligent beings out there, they might be also trying to reach us, or maybe they've already seen us and thought, they're not very interesting. And yeah. But I think for us, and what I urge in the book is humility. Humans, we seem to think that we are all that, but we are not really. And our attitude is always, we know, we can do this. And even scientists, there was a point when they thought, we are making so much progress, we are going to come to a point where we don't need anyone. We can actually have all the answers. That was when Newton's physics was the thing, and then quantum physics came, and scientists are at a loss to understand what is going on with reality. They don't know. We don't know what reality is, really. So that is why perhaps we people of faith can continue having or being consoled that we don't know, but we are in the hands of the one who knows. And I think that is why, in my opinion, faith might survive longer than any of the other attempts by human beings to control reality. Yeah.
Now, was your first book along the same lines?
No. My first book?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. My thesis was a different topic. It was on the United Church of Canada's policy of anti-racism, which is kind of different. Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes?
Thoughts are there still could be someone, something that is in control, that is a creator, that is a helper, that is...
In my,
yes.
in my role as a priest, yes, I am completely convinced that that is true, and because that my faith has not failed me in that regard. But I also realize that I don't know. But I don't care in a sense, because who am I to know what is going on? So I hold on to this thing that has been handed down to me through generations, as you know, to cope with life as we proceed. Because faith has not failed me, so I will hold on to that. Some people hold on to science, but science has also become very difficult. I was listening to a woman recently. There have been some major groundbreaking in quantum physics with the problem of entanglement. Entanglement is a complicated concept, but it is about that if you have two particles that were forming the same system, at the very beginning of the universe, if they are split open and they stand, one stands here and one stands here, or one stands here and the other one is in a galaxy billions of light years away, they will still have a connection. And if this one turns, the other one will instantly turn also. That creates a huge problem in terms of understanding what reality is, because it means, since we were, according to the standard model of cosmology, if we began as a small, dense particle, which exploded in the Big Bang and then became the universe we see, that means we were entangled. And you may have a double in another galaxy and another. And every time you make a move, your double in whatever galaxy will make a move in a reverse direction. So we don't understand. So that's why I'm saying people who believe in science, which is not a bad thing, they're holding on to that, but they're also finding it's not stable. It's not something that gives them answers. So it's a question of what do you hold on to at this point. For us, people holding on the faith, we keep saying the same thing from the beginning. God created the universe, God is in charge, and God is still in control. And that's why I appreciate Paul's theology when he says that we have direct access to the Creator, which means that, yes, maybe we have a place in this whole drama, but we are not in control. And I think that is what our faith also tells us. We are not in control.
I can see where we're not in control, but I guess I was asking, is I was saying that I can see that we're not in control. I mean, that's very obvious. But we have changed. I mean, there was the Ice Age, the printing press, industrialization, agriculture. We are changing as we go on. And, if we become head of a machine with stick legs or something, I can understand that too, because we're evolving all the time. But the question still is there someone that is in control?
Yeah, that is our faith, and that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, that we people of faith have been consistent all along. We have said there is someone who started this entire thing. They are still in control, and we happen to have been incorporated into their story. We are not in control, but we are safe and secure because the one we believe in is in control. Personally, yes, I still have that faith. Because the alternative, what is the alternative really? You know? Because scientists are also in disarray right now. Who else is there? Philosophy? No answers. No answers. And I'm saying this not because I'm the rector of St. James, but because, yes, there doesn't seem to be a clear alternative to surrendering to the original story that we have told ourselves all the way from the beginning. Patrick, were you going to say something?
I have a couple of thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Initially, you talked about the anxiety that we experience and how we are trying to delay. I think you said delay annihilation, but I think that because we're all very cerebral. That's what's leading to some of our anxiety because we think more about things and we postulate and we theorize. And I think those are the things that make us anxious because it seems like the more we go searching for answers, there's more questions, right? So
that's true, yes. Yeah, the more we go searching, the more we realize that, that it's more complicated. And that's why I was saying that when Isaac Newton came up with his book, someone called Laplace, I think he was a French physicist, continued to work with Newton's theories and showed that actually if we had all the details, all the data at our disposal, we might be able to tell through mathematics the past, the present, and the future perfectly, because they thought that Isaac Newton had finally, found the answer to what reality is about. But then, as you know, in the 20th century, quantum physics came and it completely turned the tables around. And at this point, the most recent developments or findings in that particular type of physics is the entanglement theory, and it has created a situation where even scientists and physicists are throwing their arms in the air and saying, we don't know what's going on.
Right.
Yeah.
More questions.
Yeah, exactly. Because Einstein had come up with a principle which nobody could argue with, and that is that the fastest thing in the universe is light. Nothing travels faster than light. But now the entanglement theory is disputing that because, as I said, one particle could be here and entangled with another billions of light years away. But if this one turns, the other one turns in the opposite direction instantly. So how do you explain that? You can't. So isn't it safer, again, to say, yes, God is in charge. There is a God and God is in charge. Any other? Yes? Well, yeah.
Is Satan a reality or a construct?
Well,
or the opposite of God?
Well, this is where it becomes difficult because if I was, it's difficult for me to begin addressing some of the established traditions and teachings and doctrines of our faith. There is a lot that I question also. But doing that in my role is very dangerous because people, why are you laughing?
Well, because.
Yeah. Because you might be playing with people's faith, and for some people, their faith is so rigid, and it shouldn't be tampered with. And my oath in this role as a priest is not to do that, is to facilitate people's faith and build it up and encourage them. But to answer your question, again, I think it goes back to how, when you look at how those concepts developed, they didn't start in the Bible, actually. They started in all kinds of mythologies that took place between this very vibrant period of time over the last 10,000 years, after humanity began to have a settled life and to begin to think about questions of faith, of life and who are we and how can we build our religions. So you will find that then the question of evil came in, and people wondered, how do you interpret that? And you'll find that the doctrine of the devil in our faith has its roots in pagan religions. But it is what we believe, and we take solace in what the Bible says.
Good answer.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Any other thoughts?
Do you think the devil is maybe something we gave it a form?
So,
the devil is more about what you were saying about people,
your
own internal battles, like I do something spiteful or someone else. That's
right.
word, but pagan religion made it. I don't think it made him in a human form, but made him really.
I'm very reluctant to get into that, because we are beginning to take apart our doctrine. But when you find me in a relaxed mood, we might have a conversation about that. But since we are standing in the sanctuary and talking about our faith, it's all very complicated.
This is the conversation we have at a bar when we've had a few drinks.
Right. Yes. Yeah. But it is complicated. But I think overall, for me, I find, as I said, it is easier to have the same story that has been told from the beginning hold us, even though the details may not be, may differ or may sound fishy for some of us, but the story remains and holds, and there's no alternative, in my opinion. Yeah. Yes.
I was just wondering
Yes.
We gave it a form because we wanted to account for behavior.
Yeah, I
wicked, and I can say, well, the devil may come to it, right?
Yes. And I like your thinking, because that is the kind of people, the thinking that people engage with, which then which because people question the details of our doctrine, even people of faith, you question those doctrines, and in doing so you learn more, and your faith may actually be deepened. And so I encourage you to continue wondering about that, because where do all these theories come from? You find, as I said, for sure, that many of our doctrines didn't fall from heaven. They come from ancestral religious beliefs, which were pagan. When you look at Abraham, for example, his intentions was not to create the kind of faith we have today. They continue the believed important. And so he came with the concept of having access to God, the Creator, which was a new vision, and it changed everything. So, yeah, I think it is good to think through those and keep doing that. But I'm reluctant to begin picking apart, pieces of years. Okay, maybe a couple of other quicks.
Much more than we could ever ask or imagine. We're saying, no, we're nothing, more or less. There's something in the Bible. There's something in the Bible that talks of us as mere worms or whatever. I think it does. And then we say in our prayers that God can do much more than we can ask or imagine. I think we realize that we're certainly not the top of the world or the sphere or whatever. So just to keep in mind that, we don't have the answers. We probably won't. We're trying. We're grasping. We're groveling to find out. I don't know how electricity works. I have no idea whatsoever. But I turn on a switch and there comes the light, sort of thing. So, we can get through life relying on some people who have been given the gifts.
That's right. And I think, the Bible is very good at encouraging that kind of humility, which I'm also talking about. In the end, we really must humble ourselves because we are not as smart as we thought. So, and the Bible always, the same story has always been this, been told to us. Paul tells us to be humble, and Jesus emptied himself. And he humbled himself and became like us, because I think it's good. It's a good, and as I said in my book, I encourage humility rather than the assumption that we know everything and we should control things. We can't control anything at this point, and so we throw ourselves into God's hands and mercy and continue our lives. Yes. Sorry? That we shouldn't be afraid. The microphone? Yes. Okay, we shall bring the microphone back. Yeah, we'll pass it back, Yes.
No, I was just saying, I thought it was really interesting when you were mentioning that, because you made quite a point of that at the end when you were talking about we shouldn't be afraid and hold on to what we have now. We shouldn't be afraid to explore the next.
That's right. Yes.
The next part of our existence.
Yeah, I think it is true, because imagine our brains are limited. They are in this little box, and we are beginning to understand that what we thought intelligence to be is so much wider than we can accommodate here. Imagine we tried to control the evolution of what is coming. It means that the future beings will be stuck with our level of thinking, our prejudices, our limited capacities in various ways, simply because we wanted to maintain control. And yet, if we let go, and this is where let go and let God, I remember Paddy Ann gave me a painting which says, let go and let God. Let us just, allow that God is in control, and that if we try to take control, and the Bible also says that, we kind of become sort of like what the Tower of Babel is about. You try to maintain control, but you are not as important or as, and I'm not, this is not being abusive, but as smart as you think you are. There's so much out there than what you can manage. So let us be good ancestors and facilitate whatever else God is planning to come into being. You know, in my tradition, we have, you know, the role of ancestors is very important. Ancestors are not seen as people who control the future, but they are people who facilitate the future to happen. And so they leave, they do what needs to be done, and then they let the future take its course. Can we do that? I think is the question. But it's not easy because everybody is afraid at this point. Yes, please.
Oh, yes, I have a question. This is fascinating. I'm really enjoying this discussion.
Well, thank you very much.
My question has to do with you on a personal level, because when you began, you said you were wearing a couple of hats.
Right.
You're a priest,
Yes.
you're a researcher, you're a writer. And I'm just wondering how you reconcile those different parts of yourself.
Yes.
Because how do you teach what the Bible teaches
Yes.
and those traditions, your understanding of the role of ancestors, and then the science and the research and the history that you have. How do you deal with that in your own brain?
By recognizing that God is in charge. That's where I begin. So I don't know anything. What I'm trying to understand here is a minuscule part of the wholeness of reality. So it is a bit like a surgeon, when the surgeon is performing, doing surgery, they have to follow protocol, they have to follow the standard procedure which are known by the profession. But if that surgeon is also a researcher, they explore new avenues that may improve and enrich their profession. So I also follow the rules of the tradition which I inhabit. But at the same time, as a thinker and critic, I go into the direction that Patrick was talking about, of questioning certain things, not to break the whole thing, but to see whether there are better avenues, there are better ways of looking at reality that God is trying to invite us into. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Well, we are at 9. Thank you very much. And I thank you very much for the opportunity. Thanks. Yeah.